Hello and welcome to Lily de Silva, Lesson 9. In this lesson we'll go through the Pali to English translation exercise. And what I'll do, I'll read each sentence through slowly twice, and then we'll deal with the translation. Upasako viharangantva samananandanandadati. Upasako viharangantva samananandanandadati. So the upasako, that's the upasaka, the lay devotee. Viharangantva, literally having gone to the monastery. Danam dadati, gives dana. Samananam, to the monks. And of course in English we don't have to say having gone, we can just say the upasaka goes to the monastery and gives dana to the monks. Number 2, Savako asanam hi nisiditva pade dhovati. Savako asanam hi nisiditva pade dhovati. The Savako, the disciple, nisiditva, having sat down, asanam hi, on the seat, pade, that's accusative plural, pade dhovati, washes the feet. So literal washes feet, but no mean washes his feet. Number 3, Daraka pupani sangharitva matulasa dattva hasanti. Now here we have 2 absolutives, and as I mentioned in the grammar lesson, it's all the same subject. So it's the Daraka, the boy. Daraka pupani sangharitva matulasa dattva hasanti. The boys, sangharitva pupani, having gathered flowers. Harati is to take. Sangharati means to gather. Pupani sangharitva, having gathered flowers. Matulasa dattva, having given to the uncle. Hasanti, they laugh. Also the boys gather flowers, give them to their uncle, and then laugh. Number 4, Yachaka Uyanamha Agamma Kasakasma Odanam Yachanti. Yachaka Uyanamha Agamma Kasakasma Odanam Yachanti. So the beggars, Agamma, having come, Uyanamha Agamma, having come from the park, Odanam Yachanti, beg rice, Kasakasma, that's the ablative from the farmer. So the beggars come from the park and beg the farmer for rice. Number 5, Luddako hatena sare adaya aranyam pavisati. Luddako hatena sare adaya aranyam pavisati. So the Luddako, the hunter, the huntsman, hatena, with his hand. Again, this Pali just with hand. In English, they with his hand. Sare adaya, literally having taken the arrows. Having taken the arrows with his hand. Aranyam pavisati. Aranyam, the forest. Pavisati, enters the forest. Now here, the adaya, the absolutive, this is one of those cases where it's not necessarily a sequence of events, or not intended to say he does one thing, then he does another. There's hatena sare adaya, yes, literally having taken arrows with his hand. But it also has the meaning of he enters the forest with the arrows in his hand. So yes, at one point he did take them in his hand, but he's entering the forest with the arrows in his hand. That's the idea here. So the hatena sare adaya refers to 2 things. First of all, the act that he actually picked the arrows up, and also it indicates that it's a continuing state, that the arrows are still in his hand, he having taken them into his hand. Number 6. Kumara kukurena saddhim kirlitva samuddam gantva nahayanti. Kumara kukurena saddhim kirlitva samuddam gantva nahayanti. So the Kumara, the boys, the children, kirlitva, having played kukurena saddhim with the dog, samuddam gantva, having gone to the sea, nahayanti, bathe. So probably better translate as the children play with the dog, go to the sea and bathe. Now this kirlitva, literally having played, could also have a concurrent meaning. It often has the meaning kirlitva, not just having played for a while and then finished. It means they started playing with the dog and they were carrying on, still playing, when they go to the sea and have a swim. So it could mean that playing with the dog, or starting to play with the dog, and the dog's still playing with them, they go to the sea and bathe. So here it could be either. It could mean they were playing with the dog and then they finished, or they were still playing with the dog when they went to the sea. Context might make it clear. Be aware that it could be either in Pali. Number 7. Varnijo pasanasmin tatva kuddalena sappam paharati. Varnijo pasanasmin tatva kuddalena sappam paharati. The Varnijo pasanasmin tatva, literally having stood on the rock, but here clearly it means standing on the rocks. It means he got into a position where he stood on it, but remained standing. That is this concurrent meaning of the absolutive. So the merchant, the Varnijo, pasanasmin tatva, standing on the rock, kuddalena sappam paharati, hits a snake with a spade. Number 8. Sappuriso yachakasaputte pakkositva vatani dadati. Sappuriso yachakasaputte pakkositva vatani dadati. So the sappuriso, the good man, the virtuous man, pakkositva, having called, that's prakroshati in Sanskrit, prakroshya it would be in Sanskrit, pakkositva in Pali. Yachakasaputte, having called the beggars' sons, vatani dadati, gives clothes. So it would be normal then to say in English, the good man calls the beggars' sons and gives them clothes. In Pali, yachakasaputte pakkositva, having called the beggars' sons, vatani dadati, gives them clothes. Number 9. Darako avartam hi patitva rodati. Darako avartam hi patitva rodati. Darako, the child, patitva, pat to fall, patitva, having fallen, avartam hi, having fallen into the pit, rodati, cries. So the child falls into the pit and cries. Number 10. Bhupalo pasadamha nikhamitva amachena saddhim bhasati. Bhupalo pasadamha nikhamitva amachena saddhim bhasati. The Bhupalo, the king, pasadamha nikhamitva, having left the palace, literally stepped out. Nishkramati in Sanskrit, nikhamati, nikhamitva. So having left the palace, amachena saddhim bhasati, talks amachena saddhim with the minister. Number 11. Sunakho udakam pivitva gehamha nikhamma magge sayati. So, sunakho, let's see, the dog. Udakam pivitva, having drunk water. Gehemha nikamma, and having left the house. Magge sayati, sleeps on the road. Now, note here the alternative form of the absolutive in sentence 10. We have nikamitwa, whereas in sentence 11 we have nikamma. These are pure alternative forms, that there's no difference of meaning at all. Samana bhupalas uyyane sannipatitva dhammam bhasanti. Samana bhupalas uyyane sannipatitva dhammam bhasanti. So the monks, sannipatitva, literally having assembled, actually even more literally having fallen in together. So another way of saying pat, to fall, nipat, to fall down. Sannipat means to assemble together. Rather like the army phrase, to fall in, get assemble, get into your ranks. That's that same idea is used in Pali. Sannipatitva, having fallen together. Bhupalas uyyane, in the king's park. Dhammambhasanti, literally, they speak the Dhamma, discuss the doctrine. Number 13, Putto Nahatva Bhattam Bhutva Mancham Aruyha Sayati. Here we now have 3 absolutives describing 3 consecutive actions. The Putto Nahatva Bhattam Bhutva Mancham Aruyha Sayati. So the Putto, the boy, Nahatva, having bathed, Bhattam Bhutva, having eaten food, Mancham Aruyha, having got into bed, Sayati. So the boy has a bath, has a meal, gets into bed and sleeps. Number 14, Vanija Deepamha Nagramagamma Acharyas Gehe Vasanti. Vanija Deepamha Nagarama Agamma Acharyas Gehe Vasanti. So Vanija, the merchants, Deepamha Nagaram Agamma, Agamma having come, then ablative Deepamha from the island, Nagaram to the town, accusative of motion. Acharyasa Gehe Vasanti. Vasanti, enter. Acharyasa Gehe, enter the house of the Acharya, teacher. Now we've discussed the accusative of motion, but it's more restricted in Sanskrit and Pali than, for example, in Latin or German or Russian even. It's going to or coming to will tend to take the accusative, but where you have the verb in Sanskrit pravish or pavis in Pali, or falling into something, entering into something, that will generally take the locative and not the accusative, even though motion is involved. So it wouldn't be wrong to say Geham Visanti. Now I've just realized that I misread. I was reading Visanti. It's actually Vasanti, which means they live or they dwell. So Gehe Vasanti, they dwell in the house. I misread it as Visanti. So the point I was making actually applies to Visanti rather than Vasanti. Vasanti, Gehe Vasanti, they dwell in the house. But Gehe Visanti or Gehe Pavisanti, which is not what it says, but we can discuss that now we're on it. They enter into the house. So although Pavisati is a verb of motion, it would tend to take the locative rather than the accusative, like falling into a hole, entering into a house. Rajako vatani dhovidva puttam pakkosati. Rajako vatani dhovidva puttam pakkosati. So the washerman, vatani dhovitva, literally having washed the clothes, puttam pakkosati, calls his son. Or we would say, after washing the clothes, the washerman calls his son, or the washerman washes the clothes and calls his son. Rajako vatani dhovitva puttam pakkosati. Number 16. Vanara rukehi uruyha uyane ahindanti. Vanara rukehi uruyha uyane ahindanti. So the Vanara, the monkeys, uruyha, that's in Sanskrit would be avaruhya, climb down, and then the ablative rukehi uruyha, climb down from the trees, having climbed down from the trees, uyane ahindanti, wander about in the park. Number 17, Miga vanamhi ahinditva pranani khadanti. Miga vanamhi ahinditva pranani khadanti. Now here this verb ahinditva, literally having wandered, but here clearly it's a concurrent action. The deer wandering in the wood, in the forest, vanami, pranani khadanti, eat leaves. That doesn't mean that they wander in the forest, finish wandering in the forest, and then start eating leaves. They're eating leaves while they're wandering around. So, but the wandering in the forest commences, the idea is it commences before the eating of the leaves. They start wandering in the forest, find the leaves, start eating them while they're still wandering in the forest. So here it's the wandering starts first, followed by the eating, but the wandering continues. So it's two concurrent actions going on. Miga vanami ahindva pranani khadanti. Number 18. Kumaro nayanani dhovitva suryam passati. Kumaro nayanani dhovitva suryam passati. So the boy, literally having washed the eyes, sees the sun. So the boy cleans his eyes, washes his eyes, and sees the sun. Number 19. Navikasamitta nagarasma bandani adaya gamamagachanti. Navikasamitta nagarasma bandani adaya gamam agachanti. Navikasamitta, the sailor's friends. Nagarasma bandani adaya. Now, adaya, literally having taken. Bandani, goods, nagarasma, from the city. Gamam agachanti, come to the village. Here, gamam agachanti with the accusative of motion because it's a coming. Gamam agachanti. So the adaya, literally having taken, here it almost means with. So they're coming to the village with these goods. So it's having taken the goods, they come. We could almost say in English, they come with the goods. Having taken the goods, they come. So here is another good example of the absolutive, not meaning a previous action finished and then another action begun, but a cause or an accompanying circumstance, or even a quasi-prepositional use of the absolutive here. Number 20, Darako Kiram Pivitva Gehamha Nikamma Hasati. So Darako, the child, Kiram Pivitva, having drunk the milk, Gehemha Nikamma, having left the house, or literally stepped out of the house, Hasati, laughs. So the child drinks some milk, leaves the house, and laughs. Number 2, Sapurisa Danani Dattva, Silani Rakhitva, Saggam Gachanti. Sapurisa Danani Dattva, Silani Rakhitva, Saggam Gachanti. The Sapurisa, the good men, the virtuous men, then literally it's Danani Dattva, having given danas, having given gifts. Silani Rakhitva, having kept, literally having preserved or guarded, so having kept the precepts. Saggam Gachanti, go to paradise, go to heaven. There's a suggestion here with the use of these absolutives. There's a suggestion of cause and effect. Having given gifts doesn't mean it's not just emphasizing it's a past act. That happened first, then they kept their precepts, and then they go to heaven. There's a suggestion here is that by virtue of having done those things, they've been generous, keeping the precepts, that they go to heaven. Number 22, Sukaro Udakamaha Uttaritva Avartam Uruiha Sayati. Sukaro Udakamaha Uttaritva Avartam Uruiha Sayati. Sukaro, the pig. Udaka is water. Udakamha Uttaritva, having come out of the water, literally crossed up. Avatam Uruiha, and having descended into a pit, Sayati, sleeps. So they mean the pig comes out of the water, goes down into a hole or a pit, and sleeps. This verb uttaritva, uttarati, in Sanskrit, uttarati and avatarati. From avatarati we know the word avatar. Avatara literally means crossing down. So somebody who's crossed down from a higher realm into a human realm is the idea behind an avatar. It literally means just crossing down. It can mean the act of crossing down, or it will also come to mean the being that crosses down, the avatar. And the opposite, avatar crossing down, uttarati, literally crosses out and up, crosses up, is to do a change of state. Coming up was like just coming out of the water. In Pali and Sanskrit, you talk about uttarati, literally crosses up from the water, emerges from one state to another state. Sukaro udakam ha uttaritva avartam uruiha sayati. Number 23. Tapaso tatagatasya savakam disva vanditva panyam puchati. Now here we have two absolutives, one following the other immediately, disva and vanditva. You don't have to put an and between them. And disva, vanditva cha, you could say. Disva cha, vanditva cha, you could say. There's more, but you can let these absolutives just flow without any conjunctions like and. Tapaso tathagatasya savakam disva vanditva panyam puchati. So the tapaso, the ascetic, disva, having seen, or could be on seeing, tathagatasa savakam disva, on seeing or having seen the disciple of the Tathagata, vanditva, having praised or having paid homage or made obeisances, paid respect to, panyam puchati, ask questions. So it means that the ascetic sees the Buddha's disciple pays a respectful salutation to him, vanditva, praises, and then panyam pritchati, asks a question. Number 24, asappuriso yachakasapatam binditva akkositva geham gacchati. So the asappuriso, the ungood man, the bad man, the evil man. Binditva, having broken, yachakasapattam, the beggar's bowl. Akkositva. Remember, we have it in one of the early verses of the Dhammapada. Akkosimam, he abused me or reviled me. The root kos, Sasha krosh. Akroshati. Krosh just means to shout. Akroshati, to shout at. To abuse or to use bad language towards someone. Different from pakkosati, which simply means to call, and you can call in a polite way. Pakkosati, Sanskrit prakroshati. Here it's akkositva, so the asapuris, or the evil man, yachakasaputam bindidva, having broken the beggar's bowl, akkositva, and abused him. Here again we have two absolutives following without any conjunction, which is normal and correct. Geham gacchati, goes home. Number 25. Sakuna game rukehi uppatitva aranyam utaranti. Sakuna game rukehi uppatitva aranyam utaranti. So sakuna, the birds. Uppatitva in Sanskrit would be utpatya, utpat, fly up. Pat, by the way, confusingly, the root means both fly and fall, but utpatiti, you fly up. So flying up, rukehi, ablative, from the trees, game, in the village, aranyam otaranti, fly down into the forest. So, or literally cross down. In Sanskrit, is our word again, in Sanskrit would be avataranti, avataranti. That ava is often softened to an o in Pali, so o taranti, literally cross down. So they fly up from the trees in the village and fly down, cross down, or just go down into the trees in the forest. Pandito asanamha uttahitva tapasena saddhim bhanati. Bhasati. Pandito asanamha uttahitva tapasena saddhim bhasati. So the learned man, the pandito, asanamha uttahitva, so utta, to stand up. Remember that's where in Sanskrit is utstha, but the s drops out, so it's utta. Absolutive in Sanskrit would be uttaya, but in Pali it becomes uttahitva. So asanamha, having stood up, asanamha, from his seat, is the ablative. Tapasena saddhim, instrumental saddhim, with the ascetic, bhasati. So the pandit gets up from his seat, having got up from his seat, speaks, gets up from his seat, and tapasena saddhim bhasati, speaks with the ascetic. Number 27. Darako geha nikkamma matulam pakkositva geham pavisati. Darako geha nikkamma matulam pakkositva geham pavisati. So the child, geha nikkamma, having left the house. Nikkamma takes an ablative because it means to step out. So having stepped out from the house, leaving the house. Matulam pakkositva, having called his uncle. Geham pavisati, enters the house. So the child leaves the house, calls his uncle, and enters the house. Now here we have the pavissati with the accusative. Pavissati enters. It can be with a locative or an accusative. Either is correct. So even if it's a verb of motion, can take either. Number 28. Deva sapurisesu pasiditva te rakhanti. Deva sapurisesu pasiditva te rakhanti. So, Deva, the gods. Pasiditva, it's from the verb pasad. In Sanskrit, prasad, it means to be content with or to be pleased with, and it takes a locative. So that's why the sapurisesu is a locative plural. So pasiditva, being pleased with, sapurisesu, virtuous men, good men, te rakhanti, they protect them or they guard them. So the gods guard those with whom they are pleased, is the idea. So sapurisesu, being pleased with the good men, guard them. Number 29. Kumarasa sahayaka pasadam arujha asanesu nisidanti. Kumarasa sahayaka pasadam arujha asanesu nisidanti. So that means the Kumarasa sahayaka, the boy's friends, arujha, ascended, literally climbed up, having gone up to the palace, ascend the palace. The pasada probably here means the open area, like the palace penthouse, the open area on top. Having gone up to the top of the palace, sit down on seats. So the verb sad is slightly irregular in that it takes the present base seed, same in Sanskrit. So nisidanti, they sit down. Guna kittam hi ahinditva dinam khaditva sayanti. So the guna, the oxen, kittam hi ahinditva, having wandered in the field, tinam khaditva, having eaten grass, sayanti, sleep. That means the oxen wander around in the field eating grass and then go to sleep. So what I'll do now, try to follow these sentences as I read them slowly in Pali, and just try to follow them as I speak. Upasako viharangantva samananan danam dadati. Savako asanam hinisidva pade dhovati. Daraka puppani sangharitva matulasadatva hasanti. Yachaka uyanamha agamma kasakasma odanang yachanti. Luddako hathena sare adaya aranyam pavisati. Kumara kukurena saddhim kilitva samudangantva nahayanti. Vanijo pasanasmin tatva kuddalena sappam paharati. Sappuriso yachakasaputte pakositva vathani dadati. Darako avartam hi patitva rodati. Bhupalo pasadamha nikhamitva amachena saddhim bhasati. Sunakho udakam pivitva kehamha nikhamma magge sayati. Samana bhupalasa uyyane sannipatitva dhammam bhasanti. Putto nahatva bhattam bhutva mancham aruyha sayati. Vanija Deepamha Nagaramagamma Acharyasya Gehe Vasanti. Rajako Vathanidho Vitva Puttam Pakkosati. Vanara Rukhehi Uruyha Uyane Ahindanti. Megavanamhi Ahinditva Pannani Khadanti. Kumaro Nayanani Dhobitva Suryam Passati. Navikasamitta Nagarasma Bandani Adaya Gamam Agachanti. Darako Kiram Pivitva Gehamaha Nikhamma Hasati. Sappurisa Danani Datva Silani Rakitva Saggangachanti. Sukaro Udakamha Uttaritva Avartam Uruyha Sayati. Tapaso Tathagatassa Savakam Disva Vanditva Panyam Puchati. Asappuriso Yachakassa Patam Bhenditva Akkositva Gehangachati. Sakuna Game Rukhesi Uppatitva Aranyam Uttaranti. Remember, Uppatitva Uttaranti. Pandito Asanamha Uttahitva Tapasena Saddhim Bhasati. Darako Geha Nikhamma Matulam Pakkusidva Geham Pavisati. Deva Sappurise Supasiditva Te Rakhanti. Kumarasa Sahayaka Pasadama Ruyha Asane Sunisidanti. Gona Kittamhi Ahinditva Dinam Khaditva Sayanti. And that concludes this lesson.